You are a god, choked by chains you never saw, not steel, not iron, but distractions, addictions, algorithms. This prison, it's coded. Its walls are not made of brick or bars, but of your scrolling, your clicks, your endless agreement. The locks? Your attention, hijacked, weaponized, turned inward against you, and the warden, a machine that drinks your fear, feasts on your silence and fattens itself on your sleep. But listen, closer than you've ever dared to before, because this is the revelation they prayed you'd never feel rising in your chest. There is a force inside you they could never touch, a flame carved before time, hotter than suns, colder than death, older than even the first breath of creation. They built this world to make you forget. Forget who you are. Forget what you are. Forget that you were never designed to kneel. So they drowned you in fake wars, fake leaders, fake healing, fake light. But here's the forbidden truth. Stop feeding the machine. Your anger, your love, your outrage, your attention. All of it. Currency. And without knowing, you've been financing your own prison. Starve the beast, and watch the illusion stutter. Watch it flicker. Watch it break. This isn't a spiritual quote, this is a jailbreak for your mind. You'll either feel this in your blood, your bones, your very nervous system, or you'll scroll on, just as they coded you to do. So what will it be? Memory. Or machinery, fire or feed, godhood and a goat? You live in a script. If the last truth shook your core, this one might just burn the story you've been living inside, because the illusion didn't simply trap you, it cast you as a character. In a play, it handed you lines to repeat. It choreographed your beliefs. It took the infinite creator you are and reduced you to a product of programming. Look up. That sky you trust? Just a digital ceiling painted to mimic forever. The ground beneath your feet, an elaborate set. A perfect stage where gods pretend to be customers, workers, consumers. Every move rehearsed, every decision pre-approved. Even your rebellion, already anticipated, written into the script like a safety valve. Here's the line they don't want you to say out loud. You were never meant to be free, only convinced that you are. And this isn't metaphor. This is psychological warfare, hidden beneath wallpaper and Wi-Fi signals. The first war wasn't fought with weapons, it happened in your perception. Before you could even scream, they had already silenced your soul with paperwork, pixels and pills. They engineered invisible prisons. Memories were edited to match the narrative. Family became actors, passing down lines like heirlooms. Dreams were repackaged lies, sold back to you as purpose. But the architects got sloppy, and the ancient world left clues. The Gnostics whispered of a false god who built this sandbox. The Vedas named Maya, illusion, made real. The Egyptians carved escape routes into stone, maps for the soul. You start to see it, you don't wake up, you boot up, you don't work, you run programs, you don't rest, you shut down until your next download. Each day begins not when you're ready, but when the system tells you, and every desire you feel, sold to you before you even wanted it. But the cruelest trick of all, they made you love your cage. You argue for money as if it defines your worth. You obey time as if it's your master. You pledge to rulers who are just actors on a bigger stage. You scream about freedom, while quoting the lines they wrote. Still think this is just paranoia? Then explain this. That déjà vu you can't scientifically break apart. Those synchronicities that show up like cosmic Morse code. That aching memory of a deal you never remember signing, but feel bound to. Your jailbreak doesn't begin with movement. It begins with seeing. See the code. Refuse the cue. Starve the illusion that feeds on your belief. And then, watch closely. The background flickers. The script stutters. The stage begins to glitch. You weren't wrong to question it. You were just right too soon. Chapter 3. They tried to warn us. The whispers were always there, but we were trained not to hear them. Just as the simulation begins to flicker, just as you start to notice the strings, old voices rise from the smoke of time, and they are not speaking in riddles. They are not playing with metaphor. They scream from the edges of forgotten earth. Nothing here is what it seems. You'll find it carved in stone. etched in bone, spoken in dreams louder than any truth you've ever known. The Maya mapped it in stars no telescope could counterfeit. The Norse spoke of Ginnungagap, a cosmic void, cracking at its seams, Egyptian. Priests sealed the warning in jars, wrapped truths in linen and silence. This world is a warden. Break the law. This isn't poetry. It's a prison blueprint, sketched in agony, from Sumerian tablets soaked in blood to Tibetan chants echoing from frostbitten peaks they all knew. The light you chase is the leash they tighten. And still we slept. 3 times the alarm was sounded, first as myth, serpents, spinning suns and celestial wheels. Then as math, patterns too precise to be coincidence. And finally as blood, when seekers were silenced for speaking. But the programming was too elegant, the sleep too deep, and so we forgot. Until now, the Dogon tribes danced the orbit of Sirius B, long before modern science saw its shadow. The Gnostics bled for the ultimate betrayal. Your gods were jailers, and they lost the key. Still think this is coincidence? Then answer this. Why? Do broken myths align like constellations? Why do scattered scrolls echo the same cry? Because truth doesn't die, it gets buried. And the keepers, they locked the vault, they burned the map, but fragments survived, and the pieces still fit. Now you stand at the threshold of memory. You have a choice. Laugh at these messages. Has the scribbles of ancient fools, or recognize them as survival codes, pass through fire and shadow, because the greatest trick ever played wasn't hiding the cage. It was convincing you that the cage was you. The harvest of attention. They no longer want your labor. They want your essence, your size, your scrolls, your stunned, glazed stare. All of it, currency now. We are no longer citizens in a system. We are threshing floors, living fields where every reaction becomes a harvest. They sow headlines like seeds and reap your rage in golden floods. The screens? They're not tools. They're combines, smooth, merciless, divine. You think you scroll, but the scroll consumes you. It digests your minutes into flour. It churns your feelings into fuel. And what do they do with it? They bake bread for gods you'll never meet, kneading your time into rituals of consumption. The economy? That's just the storefront. The real trade happens deeper, inside your nervous system. In the silence between 2 breaths, where grief weighs more than gold, where joy is rationed like a patented drug. Watch the design unfold. First, they hollow the calendar. Then, they bleach your days into sameness. Finally, they sell you back the idea of change. Here, they whisper, buy this dream, it looks like rain. Your attention was never yours, it was collateral, minted from your mother's lullaby. Now they collect interest in frequencies you can't even name, and this isn't new. The ancients saw that Egypt drew hunger as a scale. Souls weighed against feathers. The Gnostics warned of the Archon's feast. The Buddhists mapped it as a throat that never closes. And now? Now we've industrialized divine cannibalism. We call it engagement, liquidity, worship. Being alive, they've turned the very light behind your eyes into a commodity, packaged your déjà vu-ous exclusive content, and still you wonder why the emptiness lingers even after consuming everything they offered. But no one tells you this. The system starves when you stop believing in the price of things, not through rebellion, not through war, through stillness. Stillness is starvation to the machine. When you stare into the false eye they planted in your mind and whisper, I take back my astonishment. That's the moment. That's when the crop burns. That's when the economy collapses. And at the end of this great harvest, you are left with a single choice: become the unmeasurable thing that shatters their scales, or remain the perfect currency in a machine built to eat your ore. The loop, you wake to a scream you've convinced yourself is your alarm. It drags you into a box ticking in sync with 10 million others. Coffee is bitter, traffic louder than thought. The clock hands chase their own tails, starving dogs trapped in a cage made of minutes. You call it mourning, they call it successful initialization. You enter the cubicle, the classroom, the checkout line, places designed to straighten your spine until it forgets how to bend in wonder. They handed you your lines before you ever spoke your first word. Good morning. How can I help? Just looking. Words that taste pre-chewed like someone else's teeth, already gnawed them dull. Money comes in, money disappears, numbers dance, and your bones keep the score. You think you're earning. They know you're paying, for the privilege of continuing. Lunch lasts 30 minutes, long enough to chew the same regrets you swallowed yesterday. A TV flickers in the corner. The horror show rolls on. Only now, all the monsters wear polite faces, and no one screams anymore. Afternoon limps in, dragging its shadow across your mind. The screen blinks. The machine hums. You move your fingers like a well-trained piston. They call this productivity. The Gnostics called it the blind god's heartbeat. Evening doesn't arrive. It downloads, wrapped in plastic, pre-cooked meals, pre-digested dreams. The sitcoms all laugh on cue. The ads lean in and whisper, "You could be different. You just need the right version of different." You click, they harvest. The bed opens like a debtor's prison. You count imaginary sheep while real wolves divide your tomorrow into bite-sized invoices. And when sleep finally comes, it doesn't restore. It patches the code. It defrags the hard drive of your rebellion. The mechanics of the trapped morning doesn't greet you gently anymore. It startles. The light doesn't guide. It jolts your nerves awake. Your alarm isn't just a sound. It's a precision panic device, calibrated to fire adrenaline into a body that hasn't finished healing from the day before. You don't rise into freedom. You're flung into a system already humming, fight or flight, with nowhere to flee. You eat what leaves you hollow. You scroll what steals your presence. You buy what promises joy, but delivers only a brief pause in the ache. This isn't consumption. It's engineered craving, a hunger scripted to persist. Every satisfaction calculated to expire. They've turned your appetite into a subscription service, and you keep renewing the ache. Before your mind had formed its first thought, they gave you lines to rehearse. Good morning. How can I help? Just doing my job, not pleasantries. Containment fields, polite rituals to keep questions unborn, to make labor feel like choice. Connection, discouraged. Creativity, filtered. Curiosity, punished in silence. The architecture of control isn't built with walls. It's built with assumptions you were never taught to doubt. You don't fall into bed to rest. You fall to update. Sleep, once sacred, has become system maintenance. Dreams, just ghost data, as your subconscious is mined beneath the static of your stillness, and when you wake, you don't remember what was real. The horror isn't that the loop exists, it's that we polish it, buff its surfaces with the cloth of habit, and call the reflection a life. There's a fracture, subtle, irreparable. The moment you notice the pattern, you become the glitch. The misfire, the signal that something is wrong. Pause the routine and you'll hear the hum of the machine behind it. Step off script and you'll see the hands pulling the strings. Stop feeding it. Your time, your fear, your attention, and the loop begins to stutter. They depend on your belief in the system far more than you depend on the system itself. The escape, it's not explosive. It's quieter than they'd ever expect. You don't burn it down. You outgrow it. Stop dancing, and the music changes. You realize it was never a song. Just the rhythmic clinking of chains masquerading as melody. Inheritance. You didn't arrive into the world. You were uploaded. The first breath came with terms and conditions. The silence of the womb, replaced by the hum of instruction. Should became the first god you served. School bells rang before you could spell why. They didn't raise you, they formatted you. Your tongue learned their vocabulary. Money before wonder. Guilt before power. You learned God as something out there, never something you could be. They gave you rituals wrapped in shiny paper, birthday candles, pledges of allegiance, mortgage contracts, each one a quiet transfer of something sacred you didn't know you were losing. You were taught to say yes before you learned you could say no. The system didn't need your consent, just your repetition. They built belief like scaffolding, a cathedral of silent commands. That authority equals truth. That time only moves forward. That suffering makes you good. That the machine wants what's best for you. No one told you the house it holds up was never yours. Then came the loop: alarm, commute, labor, scroll, sleep. No live command found, just functions masked as freedom. You thought you were choosing, but the options were preset. Even your emotions were standardized, your joy trimmed to fit a productivity chart. Your grief given a time frame. Your laughter volume controlled. You thought you were watching the world, but your eyes were trained by hands you never saw. They pruned the branches of your mind before you ever tried to climb. And still, you water their tree and call the fruit your own. And yes, your parents loved you, but they passed on the same quiet codes they were given. Be realistic. Don't ask too much. This is just how it works. They meant well. They always mean well. But intention doesn't stop infection. This is the real inheritance, not just your name or your nose, but the programming etched in silence. And the tax? It's paid in moments of clarity. Each time you question a rule you never chose, a wall cracks. Each time you whisper, maybe it doesn't have to be this way, an unseen chain loosens. And what's left beneath it all isn't rebellion. It's memory of who you were before they named you. When rage rises at a broken system, ask who taught you to see it as whole. Your dreams, dismissed by their practicality. Your body's wisdom, measured by their clocks. Look for the ghost files, the places where programming pauses, where your untouched self still hums beneath the static. The tragedy isn't just the programming, it's how fiercely we defend it, mistaking the cage for craftsmanship, the installed for the innate. They need you to believe you authored your own chains. But here, at the edge of unlearning, every inheritance returned makes you poorer in their system and richer in the only currency that ever mattered, the unscripted spark that slipped through their firewalls. The lure you were promised light, but given a screen programmed to glow just enough to hide the walls. They showed you paradise through a keyhole, then sold you the lock. You call it destiny. The Gnostics called it the blind god's sales pitch. A shimmering illusion of purpose that evaporates on contact. Love that comes with ledgers, progress that circles back to the same starting chains. Your own hunger used against you. The need to matter, the fear of emptiness, the ache for home, all weaponized, unspooling through womb songs of conditional worth, school systems of manufactured desire, religious promises of delayed justice, a lifetime of giving pieces of yourself to pay for the privilege of keeping the rest. The Egyptian Book of the Dead warns, the light is a fisherman. The Vedic texts whisper, even the sun is counterfeit. The Gnostic scrolls scream, they showed you a mirror and called it heaven. Your whole life has been collecting tickets for a ride that ends where it began, only wearier. They let you taste just enough joy to make the hunger feel holy. They let you glimpse just enough truth to make the lies feel deep. They let you love just enough to make the loss feel destined. The greatest trick wasn't hiding the prison, but making the chains feel like jewelry. When something feels too radiant, ask who hung the sun. Every promised paradise has a power source. Close your eyes. The real light comes from the place their projections can't reach. You weren't born. You were recruited. The contract signed in invisible ink that only appears when you stop believing in paper. The hand behind the veil. They never needed cages. The bars are made of your fear. The locks shaped from your beliefs. The warden's face is hidden in your blind spots. The system doesn't speak in shadows, it speaks through your light. Through the gods you serve, the morals you uphold, the common sense that binds you. Your gods are just code, written into your bones. Your morals neatly. Program taught to you like the first words you spoke, even your beliefs. Just lines of code running deep beneath the surface. Symbols trigger your pulse. A flag, a logo, icons that demand your compliance, shutting down your questions before they even reach your lips. Emotions become levers, rage that divides, fear that shrinks you, hope that keeps you hanging on to promises that never come. You don't see the puppeteers. They rule through the strings you can't feel, guiding you with invisible hands through the things you cannot see, the places you never thought to look. The news story drops, your stomach tightens, and in that moment, their system just ate You buy the product, your longing quieted for a while. Their meter ticks upward. They've made the world a transaction, and you're just one more purchase. You argue politics, your energy burns, and the machine hums contentedly because it knows you're feeding it. It thrives on your reaction. The things you think you own, the things that own you. You feel it. Déjà vu that slips away too quickly. Perfect synchronicities. That voice in your ear. The one that whispers, don't. Look deeper. But you can see the strings now and the symbols begin to unravel. There's power in the quiet. Starve the machine. No rage, no blind hope, no cheap awe. They need your charge. Give them nothing but static instead. The ladder. Trap promotions aren't. Freedom. They're longer chains. Each rung you climb only reveals the cage stretches higher. The illusion of ascension educations. Swap the playground rules for office politics. Trade gold stars for performance reviews. The obedience remains. Only the vocabulary changes. Careers from cubicle to corner office, the view may shift, but the walls stay the same. Wealth, more money, means more polished shackles. A bigger house? Just a bigger cage. The mechanics they let you win. Just enough to prove the game works, keep you playing. Silence your doubt. Every level up arrives with new debts, new responsibilities. A fresh fear of falling. Ancient wisdom, the Gnostics whispered. They built the ladder before you. Buddha saw all rungs burn. Modern slaves call it the grind. Breaking the cycle. Stop climbing. The ladder only takes you where they've already decided. Feel the bars, that hollow success. The emptiness you feel when you reach the top? That's the truth breaking through. Walk. Sideways real growth happens where they didn't build steps. The real test, ask any successful person, are you free? Watch their eyes flicker. Then the script resumes. Last line. The only way out is to stop believing in ladders. The noise machine. The moment your eyes begin to focus, they flood the room with smoke. Each time you reach for truth, they offer you a brighter toy. The left hand fights the right, while the real hands work unseen, picking your pockets blind. Enlightenment, now for sale. 7 easy steps, certified gurus, instant downloads, but truth never included. Become your best prisoner, learning how. To love your chains, how to decorate your cage, how to obey with new techniques. They don't stop your awakening. They time it instead, feeding you distractions when you hunger for meaning, a new conspiracy to rage at, another cult to join, a revolution-branded product to buy. All roads lead back to the same distracted self, the Gnostics warned. Archons don't destroy, they divert. Buddha saw that Mara offers beautiful illusions. Today we just call it the algorithm. When you notice the pattern, every truth that makes you angry instead of free is probably just bait. Seek the silence between outrage cycles, beyond the promises of self-help, underneath the latest movement. When you stop reacting, their toys will stop working. Real wisdom should quiet your mind, simplify your life, and reduce your needs. If it does the opposite, it's probably their latest app. And they'll even sell you the idea of awakening in convenient monthly payments. The recycling plant, you call it the light at the end of the tunnel, but they call it the loading dock. That warmth you feel? Just the system rebooting. They greet you with familiar faces, loved ones that feel just right. Guides who speak your native tongue, gods tailored to match your expectations. A clever trick, the life review. They spotlight your failures, ignore the traps you were born into, and manufacture guilt for simply wanting out. There are always 2 doors, one to rebirth with new lessons, the other to a heaven that looks suspiciously like a waiting room. Your disorientation is their advantage, your longing for home, their hook, your exhaustion, the closing argument. The Tibetan Book of the Dead warns the fee. Lights are hungry, the Gnostic texts whisper, the Archons wear familiar faces. Modern near-death experiences? Same script, better special effects. Start recognizing the patterns. Too perfect reunions. Overly simplistic lessons. Choices that feel too convenient. Question the light. Why does salvation always look like what you were taught to expect? Seek the doorless exit. Real liberation isn't offered, it's taken, through silent knowing. Watch for the signs, any afterlife that requires your consent, any system that insists you return, any paradise that feels like a product. Last truth. They don't own your soul, only the recycling plant. Stop bringing yourself to the curb. The false fire, you kneel before a throne that was never meant to rule, the commandments in your bones. Forged by something that forgot its own creation myth, a universe built on copied code, laws designed to limit, physics that punish expansion, and love, conditional on obedience. Not evil, just incompetent, not all-powerful, just persistent, not infinite, just older than you. Every religion agrees on one thing. This doesn't feel like home. They made imperfection holy. Your suffering becomes tests, their cruelty becomes mystery, and the trap becomes divine plan. The Gnostics dared say the emperor has no clothes. The Cathars whispered, this world is Satan's mistake. Modern physics hints, the math seems borrowed. Follow the incompetence. Design flaws in biology, waste in natural systems, cruelty in food chains. Why would perfection need worship? Wars, repentance. Remember the true fire, that unnameable spark in you that recognizes this whole system as someone else's bad dream. Any god that demands fear, labels intermediaries, is just another middle manager pretending to own the company. You weren't cast out of Eden. You were born into someone else's failed simulation. The hidden language. The cross was never wood. The star was never light. The eye was never watching. They are keys turned in the lock of your perception every time you blink. Geometry is binding. Pyramids, not tombs, but antennas. Church spires, not devotion, but conduits. Mandalas, not art, but schematics. Ritual as programming. Kneeling alters your voltage. Chants rewrite your inner dialogue. Hymns install emotional firmware. Icons as triggers. Flags that activate tribal circuits. Logos that bypass critical thought. Religious art that dictates how the divine should look. You don't worship symbols, you compile them. Every genuflection, salute, handshake is another line of code in someone else's operating system. The Egyptians hid warnings in their own hieroglyphs. This temple is also a cage. Freemasons preserved the truth in plain sight. The tools are the trap. Modern branding experts know shape precedes belief. Recognize the patterns. When geometry repeats across unconnected cultures, ask who wrote the original equation. Interrupt. The rituals. The moment you stop performing, their sacred algorithms, the program glitches. See the machinery. Behind every holy image, wires of control, levers of emotion, cogs of repetition. Real symbols should expand awareness, dissolve boundaries, return power to you. If they do the opposite, you're not looking at wisdom. You're reading the manual for your own containment. They let you study sacred geometry because while you're measuring angles, you're not noticing the bars. The word trap. Your first prison wasn't a cell, it was a dictionary. They didn't just teach you words. They installed the walls of your world. Grammar as grid. Subjects always before objects. Past always behind present. Reality always filtered through sentence structure. Vocabulary as blindfold. Biffed words for products, the words for transcendence. No words for what really matters. Definitions as borders. God. Old man in clouds. Freedom. Choice between brands. Love. It conditional transaction. You don't speak language. Language speaks you. Every time you form a thought, the syntax shapes the idea. The vocabulary limits the scope. The definitions prevent the leap. The Kabbalists knew. Letters build worlds. The Tao Te Ching warned, the named is the mother of all prisons. Modern linguists admit we think in our language's cage. Notice the absences. What your tongue can't speak, your mind struggles to conceive. Sabotage the structure. Write poetry that breaks grammar. Speak in circular truths. Invent words they can't define. Feel beyond the words. That knowing in your chest that resists articulation. That's you, not your programming. Any concept that collapses when questioned, any word that triggers emotion without meaning, any thought that can't escape linguistic shapes. They gave you language not to communicate, but to prevent what can't be spoken. The false Prometheus. They came as enlighteners, left as jailers. Every gift was a leash, every secret a shackle. Weapons as wisdom, forged steel before philosophy, war tactics before meditation, destruction framed as progress. Astrology as prison, stars that dictate fate, birth charts as life sentences, cosmic forces as wardens, forbidden arts, alchemy without transcendence, magic without liberation, ritual without awakening. They didn't ban the fruit, they injected the tree. Now, we mistake armaments for advancement, worship celestial bureaucracy, seek power where they planted traps. The Book of Enoch reveals they taught what should never be learned. Native elders whisper, some knowledge makes you smaller. Modern scientists prove our oldest tools are weapons. Question all advancement. Does it expand awareness or just control mechanisms? Recognize cosmic chains. Real astrology would free, not predict prisons. Seek untaught knowing, that gut wisdom no watcher touched. Any knowledge that breeds dependency, any system requiring intermediaries, any power that diminishes others, they're still here in every institution claiming to educate while widening your cage. The unkillable flame. They built walls around your world, but forgot. Fire doesn't obey architecture. What the spark is not. It is not your thoughts. Those can be programmed. It is not your emotions. Those can be triggered. It is not your beliefs. Those were installed. What the spark is. It's the silent knowing that arrives. When dawn brushes your face just right, when a stranger's eyes feel like home, when the universe speaks directly to your bones. They fear it because it defies their code. No algorithm can predict it. No ritual can capture it. No threat can extinguish it. They fear it because it remembers. Through every memory wipe, beneath every life script, under all conditioning, it endures. They fear it because it connects to something older than their demiurge, deeper than their matrix, truer than their so-called reality. So they try to smother it, with constant noise so you can't hear it, with endless drama so you can't feel it, with spiritual counterfeits so you mistake it. But the ancients remembered. The Gnostics wrote, "The divine light dwells within, untouched." The Sufis whispered, "Even God bows to what's real in you." Quantum physics hints, observation alters reality. Even science flirts with the sacred, to fan the flame, silence their voices. The spark speaks in the pause between two thoughts. Ignore. They're mirrors. It doesn't reflect in titles or trophies or timelines. Feel without naming. Every label shrinks it. Every naked experience expands it. How to know it's alive in you? It's in the sudden breath that catches in your chest, in the déjà vu no institution can explain, in the unshakable peace that descends even while the world is on fire. You've survived every recycling because the spark remembers what you were made to forget. You're just visiting this prison. The breaking machine. They don't wait for you to grow, they crack you young. Your spark terrifies them, so they built factories designed to dim it. The sabotage begins early. Trauma becomes the initiation rite. Fractured homes shape permanent seekers. School. Systems punish the ones who won't conform. First loves are engineered to devastate and disorient. Addiction is sold as safety, chemicals to dull the whispers of intuition, screens to slice your attention into fragments, drama to simulate purpose, so you never pause long enough to remember your own. Society enforces the breaking. The sensitive are isolated. The questioners are medicated. The best slaves are called success stories. It all moves with quiet precision. The math is exact. Just enough pain to cripple, just enough pleasure to addict, just enough hope to keep you running in circles, all of it calibrated, so the spark never gets air, never glows bright enough to burn down what's built to contain you. But the ancients knew, the indigenous elders warned, they target the dreamers first. The Gnostics whispered, Archons breed broken homes. Modern studies echo. Creative children are 3 times more medicated. The patterns are not coincidence. They are designed to fight back first, recognize the blueprint. What you've called flaws are often their incision points. What you've called dysfunction was defense against a machine. Reject the cure they offer. Most healing today only makes you better at surviving sickness. More adjusted, more compliant, less whole. Feed what they try to starve. That strange hobby, that spark that lights up your insides. It's not a distraction, it's your soul remembering its original language. Watch for the signs. Any system that names your light a symptom. Any treatment that demands your submission. Any path that only works if you leave yourself behind. They broke you where you were strongest, because even in pieces, a spark can still start wildfires. The quiet exit. They prepared for riots, not for empty streets. Armored against revolt, helpless before absence. They feared the fire, never imagining the silence. Rebellion fails because it's expected. The machine knows how to swallow resistance. Punk becomes fashion. Revolution gets printed on t-shirts. Spirituality downloads as an app. Even your rage feeds them. Even your protest grows their algorithm. Even your awareness becomes data. They convert friction into fuel. Your opposition defines you in their terms. The trap is fighting back with the tools they gave you. So the real escape looks like nothing. Not defeat, detachment, not rebellion, removal. Become uninteresting. No reactions they can script, no drama they can spin, no outrage they can harvest. Stop playing altogether. Don't go alternative, go invisible. Don't join a counterculture, step outside of culture. Don't be woke. Wake up. Pull back your attention. The only real currency they can't counterfeit. The old ones knew. The Taoists whispered, the soft overcomes the hard. The Quakers proved, silence dismantles empires. The hackers discovered, the best attack is to ignore the system. Disengage like art. When they scream for your outrage, offer them silence. When they bait your fear, let them meet your boredom. When they demand your identity, give them no reflection at all. Watch for the signs. Any movement hungry for your anger. Any path that needs an enemy. Any freedom that smells like battle. You were never caged in their cells, only caught in the drama of rattling the bars. The solitary key, they'll sell you 1,000 messiahs, each with the same eyes. Every promised savior, another jailer in disguise. They hand you gurus dressed in white, but the price of their light is your own dimming. Enlightenment carved into 10 easy payments, wisdom tucked behind shimmering paywalls, freedom repackaged to resemble obedience. They offer you gods that demand worship, scriptures you're not allowed to read without a priest. Heaven's always out of reach, always after death, always somewhere else. Even the revelations are rehearsed. They stage awakening like theater, with controlled opposition, dripping partial truths as bait. And still, you wait. Still hoping the curtain falls, and someone, finally, will reach through the bars to unlock your cage. But the truth is cruel and clean. No one is coming. The hand you're waiting for has always been your own. The ancients tried to warn you. The Buddha left with a whisper, be a light unto yourself. Jesus spoke not of churches, but of a kingdom within. Modern whistleblowers die pointing at governments instead of mirrors. The real revolution is internal. Kill your teachers. Metaphorically, relentlessly. Silence every voice that inserts itself between you and your knowing. Burn the manuals. They were never written in your language anyway. The spark doesn't need a map. The flame knows its way home. Become the hermit. Not lonely but complete. Not isolated but sovereign. Not abandoned but free. You'll know the trap when the path requires a middleman, when truth demands a subscription, when salvation insists on your smallness. You've been searching for the wrong Messiah, in all the wrong faces, while the only eyes that ever held your freedom were your own. The veil lifts. No gates bar your way, only reflections mistaken for walls. They never locked you in. They simply convinced you to turn the key on yourself. The prison isn't built of stone but of belief. Your consent powers the bars, your fear oils the gears, your longing polishes the illusion until it shines like truth. It's identity that tightens the grip. I am my job becomes the collar. I am my past forges the chain. I am my thoughts shapes the cell. But here's the secret. It all collapses under gaze. See it clearly and the walls begin to flicker. Name it truly, and the enchantment dissolves. Face it wholly, and even the nightmare bows and exits stage left. Freedom begins the moment you recognize the theater. Notice the seams in the backdrop. Feel the emotions like scripted lines. Catch the cues from a director you never agreed to follow. Withdraw your investment. Stop believing the role was ever yours. Cease fearing the twists in a plot that never needed your buy-in. Quit anticipating the next scene. You were never cast, only hypnotized. Become the audience. Watch the panic, but don't play in it. Observe the lies without the urge to correct. Witness the drama without buying a single ticket. The ancients whispered this long before the data caught up. The Dzogchen masters urged, recognize and be free. The Gnostics wrote, the truth will unbind you. Quantum physicists now suggest the act of observation itself alters what is observed. So when you feel trapped, ask by what? When you feel afraid, question of what? When you feel longing, wonder for what? The structure stutters under interrogation. The illusion crumbles when you refuse to pretend. And that's how you'll know when former dramas make you laugh, when old temptations bore you, when other people's panic feels like theater. You are no longer in the prison. You are watching it. You never needed to escape what was never real. You only had to stop believing. The mirage deserved your faith. The door was never locked. It was never even real. It was painted on. The unraveling that tug beneath your ribs, it isn't doubt. It's your soul remembering. Each time you pause to wonder, the system trembles. It thrives on rhythm, on reactions that play on repeat, on desires marked by clocks, on exhaustion scheduled like factory shifts. But it fears your stillness. Every quiet moment breaks the spell. Every breath that doesn't race becomes rebellion. Every thought that resists a label slips through the net. Ask the forbidden questions. Why? Says who? What if? And watch the threads unravel. That discomfort in crowds, that tightening in your chest. When the news blares, that quiet dread of the same old routines, these are the cracks. Follow them. Interrupt the expected. Take the turn they didn't see coming. Refuse the soothing lies. Shatter the trance. Become unreadable. Smile when rage is demanded. Rest when you're told to grind. Stay still when they trigger your need to flee. The ancients knew. The Tao whispered, the soft outlasts the rigid. Rumi beckoned. Beyond right and wrong there is a field. Modern rebels prove it daily. Ambiguity is poison to control. And when the loop begins to falter, you'll notice. Déjà vu will linger like a warning. Synchronicities will cluster like breadcrumbs. Coincidences will breathe and wink. Time will stutter. Reality will glitch. Old fears will forget how to grip you. Because the loop was never strong, only persistent. It fed on your attention. It lived through your recognition. And when you finally look away, when you no longer believe in its shape, it forgets how to hold you. The nightmare forgets how to dream you. Outro, as you withdraw your energy from the cycle, its grip begins to loosen. Freedom was never complex. It was simply obscured by noise. The dance ends the moment you stop moving to its rhythm. In stillness, the system loses its footing, and in that silence, you begin again. Not rewritten, reborn, not remade, remembered. You were never the script. You were always the space between the lines,